Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of SAP HANA online training tutorials. So in the last sessions, I have explained about SAP HANA architecture and what are the different components we have in HANA database. So now from this tutorial onwards, it's going to be very important things for SAP HANA modeler. So as a HANA modeler, these are the things you are going to perform in any real-time project. So from data provisioning onwards. So you'll be involved in data provisioning, and once the data provisioning is done, you'll get into HANA modeling part, and then that is where you are going to create all the HANA modeling objects. Once it is done, you'll be partly involved into building some of the reports or connecting business objects tools to HANA. So from now onwards, you have to be very careful about listening the things and understanding the concepts. So in this session, I'll give you brief introduction about what is data provisioning and what are the different data provisioning methods we have for SAP HANA, and how to do a flat file upload into HANA database. So let's get into our. So before we get into what are the different data provisioning options we have, what is data provisioning? So data provisioning is nothing but feeding the data into your application, or feeding the data into your database, or feeding the data into your target system. So in our case, the target system is HANA. So how you can load data into, or the process of loading data into HANA or data into your target database is nothing but data provisioning, or providing the data to your system. So this involves three major steps, which is nothing but ETL. So E stands for extraction, T stands for transformation, L stands for loading. So extraction is nothing but establishing connection to your source system, establishing or creating connection to source. Source can be anything, and then once you create the connection and the connection has been established, now you can see the data. You can see the data in your source system. So now, before you load that source data into target, if you want to apply some transformations, or if you want to modify the data that you are loading, then you can do the transformations. Transformations is nothing but modification or alteration to source data. So this is just an option. Either you can modify or you can alter the data, or you can load as is, just one-to-one mapping. You are not going to do any changes to your data. So as it is in your source system, you are loading it into your target system. In that cases, you are not performing any transformations. Then loading data. So loading data is nothing but pushing data to your target system. So these are the three major steps involved in any data provisioning techniques. Okay. So now with this in picture, let's look into what are the different data provisioning options or data provisioning tools we can use to load data into SAP HANA. So different data provisioning tools for SAP HANA. So now in first couple of sessions itself, I've explained saying one of the major advantage that HANA has is it supports for a real-time replication. So it supports for real-time data replication from any source. The source can be any SAP system, or the source can be any non-SAP system, which is like traditional databases, Oracle, IBM, or MS SQL, any databases. So it has real-time data replication capability support, HANA. So when we say it has that capability to support real-time replication, then we should have a tool using which we can do real-time replication from any source to HANA. So the first tool we need for is real-time replication, to do the real-time replication. So what are the tools we have? The majorly used tool is SAP Landscape Transformation, which is SLT. SAP Landscape Transformation. And we have got the new tool, which is SRS, Sybase Replication Server. So these are the two different tools we can use for real-time replication from any source to HANA. Then what is the difference between these two? So SLT works based on database triggers, whereas SRS works based on log-based triggers, log-based replication. This works based on log tables, whereas the SLT works based on database triggers. So we'll go into details about what is database trigger or what is log-based replication when we get into SLT or SRS. But in a high level, these are the two tools that we can use for real-time replication into HANA. Now, real-time replication is fine, but real-time replication is always going to be burden on your system, because continuously the connection should be active, and the more number of tables you select for real-time replication, the connections on the system is going to be more. So always when we are going for real-time replication, we should be very careful about, do we really need real-time replication for those tables or not? So only when customer is really looking for real-time reports on data, then only we have to go for real-time replication for those tables. Otherwise, the best way is go for ETL based, ETL or batch loading. Okay. So this standard way of loading data into any database or any application. So what are the tools we have for ETL or batch loading? So we have a lot many tools in industry which are standard ETL tools, but the SAP certified ETL tool for HANA is SAP DS, which is Data Services. We can also use Informatica. Informatica also is a very well established ETL tool to load data from any source to any target. So in this case, our target is going to be HANA and source can be anything. So using Informatica also, we can load the data from any source to HANA. Then when I explained about using HANA in our landscape, so HANA can be used as a database to any application like SAP ECC on HANA or SAP BW on HANA, or HANA can be used as a component to build own analytics platform with the help of data services, SLT and business objects reporting tools. Now, when we have a BW system in place and you want to redirect data from BW to HANA, the best example is going to be like this. So you have BW system in place. one of the main thing for BW success is it's a combination of all the required functionalities for a data warehousing application. It has ET extraction capabilities, it has transformation capabilities, it has modeling capabilities. You can build your info objects, info cubes, everything, and you can also create data loading objects like DTP IPs, and you can also create administration objects like process chains to load data from one object to other object to move data from one object to other object. So if you have a BW, you don't need to use any ETL tool or any reporting tool. It has all the components in it. So now and the other advantage is it is well connected with your ECC. So it has all the data sources for different industries or different modules. So that's where you no need to do much of the activities when you have BW in your landscape. So with that in picture, if you have a ECC as your source and BW in your landscape, then you have got all the industry specific data sources available in it. So you just have to replicate them into BW and start loading data into BW, then you can build your reports. But when we are talking about BW, it's going to be on traditional database, and connecting your BW objects with say BOBI reporting tools or any web application tools is going to be bit hectic work, and the data transfer rate will be very slow. In such cases, let's say you want to use BW data in HANA enterprise system where you don't have BW, just a HANA database. So the idea will be, so you have HANA here. So usually we use process chains in BW system. To load data from one object to other object. So now let's say I have process chains here. So when you are initially loading data from ECC to BW, what you do is you replicate the data source and then you create info package to load the data into BW system, which loads into PSA. So that info package will be included in a process chain so that you can schedule that process chain, which can run every day on its own or based on the schedule options you have given. So process chains are basically used to automate the data loadings in BW. Now, when you are loading data from ECC to BW, if you want to redirect the data to HANA, so now you have connection established, everything. So now you want to execute the process chain, which internally calls that info package to load data from ECC to BW. But using same process chain, same IP, instead of loading data into BW, into a PSA, if you want to redirect to HANA into a physical table, in such cases, you can go for DXC, direct extractor connection. So using this option, you can redirect the data. So when you look at from a BW perspective, it still looks like you have executed the process chain and the IP has been executed successfully and data is loaded. But data is not loaded to a PSA table in BW, but data is loaded to a table in HANA. So once you have data in HANA, you can build your modeling objects here and you can connect to your reporting tools, business objects reporting tools. So once you have data here, you can go ahead and build modeling objects here. And then you can connect to your reporting tools. Which is SAP BOBA. You can directly connect from HANA to business objects reporting tools, or even you can connect to your web applications because HANA has inbuilt access engine. So that is one of the advantage with a direct extractor connection. So direct extractor connection is used when the data needs to be redirected from SAP BW to HANA Enterprise System. So for this we have to follow some SAP notes and we have to do the all configurations in BW system. So this is another data provisioning technique, third one. And the fourth one is, so there will be a scenario where you have data in flat files. It can be a notepad or it can be Excel or it can be a CSV format in your desktop, or any user want to load their own planning data or some of their own confidential data into HANA and do some basic analysis on that. So in such cases, we have flat file load option. So this is used to load data from desktop to HANA. So now if you want real-time replication, we have option. Either you can use SLD or SRS to load data from any source to HANA, or if you want to go ahead with a batch loading, standard ETL processing loading into HANA, then we have Data Services as a certified ETL tool from SAP to load data into HANA. Or we can also use Informatica, which is another a famous ETL tool in industry that can be used as a ETL tool to load data to HANA. And if you have a BW system from which you want to redirect data to HANA Enterprise System, then also we have an option which is DXC, Direct Extractor Connection, to redirect data from BW to HANA into a physical table. The other option is, if we have a flat files in our desktop and which needs to be loaded to HANA, then we also have flat file upload option in HANA Studio itself. So this is available in HANA Studio. It's not a separate option or separate tool. This is available in SAP HANA Studio. From there we can load the data from flat files to HANA Studio into a physical table. So these are the four different options we have. Now we'll look into how this flat file upload works and what are the steps we have to follow to load data from a desktop to HANA using flat file load option. So for your reference, I've kept all the screenshots here, but in our scenario, I'll explain in the system first, then we'll come here and I'll walk you through the screens. So now let's get into our system. We have our system here, and so these are HANA Studio, and we have got all systems all the system added, and we are in SAP HANA modeler perspective. So make sure you are in modeler perspective, otherwise you will not able to see quick launch screen, because the flat file upload option we have in quick launch screen. Now let's see what data we have to load into HANA. So here we have our folder data file, and we have our flat files available here, which I discussed the use case that we are going to create, sales versus promotion analysis. Okay, so now let's say I have my shop's information here, or I have my calendar time data information here. So let's load time data information into HANA. So before we load into HANA, we should make sure we have the right schema available in HANA to load the data into our own schema. So let's go ahead and create a new schema for our use case. So select the system, go to SQL console here using this option, using this button here, or you can right click on your system and say open SQL console, or you can also go from here, quick launch screen, SQL console. So I'll select the system, click on that SQL option to open SQL console. Now to create schema, the SQL syntax is create schema, then we have to give schema name. I'll just put sales data, then owned by my username, so that system knows that I am the owner of this schema. Now select that statement and execute this green arrow mark or F8. So now this schema is created successfully. Now if I refresh my catalog, I should see that, see, sales data we have. Okay. Now before we load the data, we should have the table structure available. Okay. So let's see our time data. And the other thing we should remember is when we are loading data from flat files using flat file upload into HANA, it supports for either your CSV files, which is comma separated files, or Excel sheets. So your file format should be in one of those two formats. So supported file formats is CSV and Excel sheets. Okay, so these are the two different file formats that are supported by flat file upload option. Now before we upload the data, we should have the table structure available. So let's create table structure for that. So I've kept all the table structures in system itself. Okay, let's get into my schema, then tables. So I'll just open this, and if you want the table structure of this, then you can say export SQL option here. So if you click on it, this will give you the select statement for that. So now you can take this, paste here. So to create any table, the syntax should be create column table. So you have to specifically mention if you want to create columnar table, and then schema name. So for us, the schema name is sales data, sales underscore data, and this is the table name. So these are the column stored data types that are stored internally in the system. So when we are creating table, we don't need to give that. So you just have to mention what is your column name and what is the SQL data type for that. We don't need column store data types. We just need to mention SQL data type. So I want this as an integer, and then week in year as an integer. So the CS specifies it's a column store data type. So we don't need to give that. You can take that out. Then same for year. Then fiscal period. Sorry. So here we don't have. Okay, now let's take this integer CS int out, and then take this out. Then take this out. So this is the SQL syntax we have to write to create a table in HANA. So once we have the SQL syntax, select that and execute. So this is saying invalid schema name because our schema name is sales underscore data. I gave date. Okay, so let's correct that and execute again. So now the table has been successfully executed. So let's get into our schema now, and then tables. Now we can see the table available here with all the required columns. So now we have the table structure available, and the next step we have to do is we have to convert this notepad data into either Excel or CSV format. So let's open an Excel sheet. Okay, go to file, open, desktop. We have the data here. Let's select all files here so that we'll get those. Select calendar year lookup. So if you see here, this is already comma separated one. So select the delimited here, go to next, and then say comma separated. So now we have got data into proper format, and then next, finish. So if you see here, why I have created table before I load data is we don't have header columns here. So that is another problem, but most of the times in real time when you are loading data, always you are going to have header columns. So let's add one row here and add header columns based on our table structure. So week underscore key, week underscore in underscore year, okay, then year, fiscal period, year week. Year, fiscal period, year week. Okay, and then we have quarter, month name, month, holiday flag. Quarter, month, quarter, month name, month. So this is our month name, then month, and then holiday flag. So now we have got our data with header rows. So now we can go ahead and save this file. So go to file, save as. In the save as type, select CSV, comma delimited file, and I'll put same file name, and then click on save. Click on S. Then we can go ahead and close this. Don't save. Now, if we get into our folder, we have got the CSV file required for the same notepad data file. Once this is done, we can go to our HANA Studio. Then in the HANA Studio, go to Quick Launch screen. Now we will start the steps needs to perform to use flat file upload to load data from desktop to HANA Studio. So here, go to import option. This is the first step in Quick Launch screen. Go to import, then select SAP HANA content. And then you have an option for data from local file. Select this, click on next. So in this screen, we'll select all the required options. We have different options available here. So in the select file, we have to select what is the source file. So usually when we go for import and then data from local file, when we click on next, okay, if you have multiple systems added here, right now we have only one system, which is HTQ added. If you have multiple systems, like 2-3 systems added here, when you click on next, it will ask to which system you want to load the data, like kind of selecting your target system as you have multiple systems added. But right now we have only one system, that's why it is directly navigating us to this screen. Otherwise, if you have multiple systems added, then before this screen you will get another screen where the system will ask you to select to which instance you want to load the data. In that cases, you can select the required system and then you will come to this screen. So now in this screen, select the source file using browse option here. So here, let's go to desktop. Then we have our folder here and select calendar year lookup. So if you see the option here, it only supports .csv, .xls or .xlsx, which means either MS Office 2007, 2010 or MS Office 2013, which is going to be your XLSX dot format. Okay, so right now we have CSV file open. So as we have selected the CSV file, this option is grayed out, select worksheet. Why? Because when you select Excel file as a source, you can choose which sheet you want to load the data. If you have multiple sheets with a different set of data, then you can select which sheet you want to load. Okay, so as we have selected a CSV file, it is saying what is the field delimiter. So right now it's a comma delimiter, so select comma as a field delimiter file. Now it will ask whether you have header rows in the file you have selected. So we have header rows. Then select header rows exist. Then it will ask how many rows. So we have the first row is our header rows. So select only one here. And then if you want to load entire data from that file, select import all data. Or if you want to load only set of data, then specify till which row you want to load. I mean from which row to which row you can select. You can put that settings here. So for us, we need to load the entire data set. So we'll select import all data. Now, if you have any leading or trailing white spaces, that will ignore if we select this option. Okay. Now comes a target table. So to which table we want to load the data. So here we have two options. You can either create table while loading data from file, or you can load it to the existing table. You can load the data to existing table. So now, as we already have a table, let's load it to the same table. And then again, I'll show you how you can create table while loading file itself. So now I'm going to select existing option. Once you select this, we have to select the table. So click on that select table, then open respective schema, tables, select the table. Okay, now we have selected the target table as well. Once the settings are done, click on next. So here we need to map our source columns with target columns. So these are our columns coming from our file source. This is calendar year lookup.csv, and these are the columns we have in our table in HANA. So now to map this, and you can also see the data coming from flat file. So this is the data we have in flat file. So you can always check whether the data is in the proper format or not in this screen. So now to map your source columns to target columns, you have this option. So either you can do one-to-one mapping or map by name. So if it is a one-to-one mapping, it just maps column 1 from here to column 1. It doesn't even look at whether those two are matching or not. If you go by a map by name, it will only map if the column from source is exactly matches to the column from target. Okay, so the limitation with this is you only have one-to-one mapping. You cannot map two columns from source to one column in target, and you cannot add any logic to the columns. So this is just one-to-one mapping where you want to load data from your desktop to HANA as it is. So right now, as my column names matches, I'll go with map by name. See, now all the columns has been mapped. So here the black line shows it doesn't have any compatibility issues. If you get if the system finds any compatibility issues, then this line will be in a red color with you will get a triangle shape there. I'll show you that. Okay, so for now let's see how this looks. Okay, so this is how we have to map here. Once the mapping is done, click on next, and then this is the data coming from flat file, and if the table already has the data, we can see here, but the table doesn't have any data, so that's why this is looking empty. Now click on finish. See, this is completed successfully. So now if we go to data preview of our table, we should be able to see the data. Okay, so how many records we have? We have 262 records. Let's see how many records we have in this file. So here also we have 263, out of which one is header row, so total 262 records. Now I'll show you how that error mapping looks. So let's see, we have year and year week, which should be nvarchar, which is a character. Now what I'll do is I'll delete data from this table. So we can write delete from, just drag and drop that table name, and you get the table name here, then execute. So now the data is deleted, and you can also see rows affected 262. So now I am going to change the data type for that column, which is year underscore week, to integer. Okay, so for that, alter table, table name, then again alter, open close brackets, what is the column name, year underscore week, and then a new data type. Okay, execute. So now this is executed successfully. So now if we get here year week, it's now integer. Okay, so now let's follow the same steps to load the data again. Go to import SAP HANA content, data from local file. Next, select the file, Open, header rows exist, import all the data to the existing table. Select the table. Next, map by name. See, because the data in source column is in characteristic format, but our target table target column is in with integer data type. So that is why it is showing this kind of different color with triangle shape, which means there is some incompatibility issue with this. Even if you go ahead and load by ignoring that, usually this should get fail. Let's see what happens. See, it has loaded only the value 2002, but it has not loaded after backslash. So you always get different data if you ignore that kind of warnings, or sometimes it will get fail also. The data upload will get fail. Okay, so we should make sure that you won't get any incompatibility mapping issues there before you load data. So now let's delete the data again and change it to nvarchar. Okay, I'll just put 10 here. Invalid data type cannot allow. I hope we have already deleted it. Okay, data has been deleted. Okay, so what happens is, whenever we are changing the column data types, we have to make sure that the change should not reduce the length of the column. Say suppose the example is we changed it to nvarchar. Sorry, we changed it to integer. Okay, so earlier it was nvarchar 7. So which means it allows maximum of 7 characters. Then we changed it to integer. So integer allows maximum of 10 numbers. Okay, now when we tried to change it to nvarchar 7, it throwed error because this 10 is always less than, sorry, this 7 is always less than 10. So it should be greater than 10, then only it allows. So that's why when we selected nvarchar 11, it has changed the data type. Till that time it was throwing an error. So even now if I put nvarchar 10, I don't think so it will allow me to change. See, cannot shorten the field length. So once it is fixed, you can increase the field length, but you cannot decrease the field length. So that's why it was throwing error. And when I selected nvarchar 11, it is executed successfully. So now let's get into our quick launch screen. Select data from local file, browse, select the file. Then we have header rows, import all the data to an existing table. Select the table from here, go to sales data schema, tables, and select our table. Next, go by map by name or one-on-one, because we know that all our columns are in sequence. So one-on-one. Now we don't have any incompatibility issues because we already changed the data type. Click on next, finish. It's successfully loaded. So now we have got the data. Okay. So now let's see how to create table while loading data itself. Go to same import option, data from local file, select the file here, comma separated file, header rows exist, import all the data here. Go for a new table. So when we select new table, select in which schema you want to create the table. So we want to create in sales underscore data, and what is the table name? So I'll just put time underscore data. Okay, then click on next. So now by default it has mapped everything, and so here we have to remember few things. So this is going to be a new table. Okay, so you can all these data types as selected based on the data we have in the file. Okay, so right now for week key it says small int because we have only 262 rows, and small int allows maximum of 4 numbers, which means it allows still 4 nines. Okay, so the small int allows 4, maximum of 4 numbers, so which means 999. Okay, whereas tiny int is only 2, so till 99. So now what if in future if you get more than 9999 records, then that load will get fail. So we have to make sure all the data types are proper before we move it to next step. Okay, and you can also select primary key here. So you have key option here. You can also select which column you want to make it as primary key. So let's say I want to make week key as my primary key, and then you can change the data types here because this is a new table, so you can change everything. Whereas in our earlier case, the table is already created, so you cannot change anything here. If you want to change anything, you have to change at database level first and then load again. So here what I can do is I can select integer instead of a small int, and here also same, I'll select integer so that to make it compatible with my future requirements, so that I won't get any issues when I get huge number of records for this table. Here also instead of small int I'll go for integer, and then let's say we have physical period which is unvar type. We have characters here. Now let's say I'll select integer for this. See, you have immediately got this error. So just put it as unvar, and this I'll put size as 10. And then year week, same unvar, I'll make size as 10. And for quarter, I'll make integer. This keep it as unvar and length 15. And month also I'll make it as integer. Holiday flag, unvar. This anyhow is going to be only one character, either N or Y, so no problem with that. Once this is done, we are good to go. Click on next. Even if you want to add columns here, you can add column, or if you want to remove any columns. Let's say I don't want to load my holiday flag into target, then you can simply remove that column selecting this option. Okay, but we'll load this. Click on next. So right in this screen you have not see, earlier when we are loading we have got two separate screens, which the first one shows data in flat file and the second one shows data in table. Right now in this we have got only one screen because this table does not exist in the system itself. This is going to be a new table. Okay, so click on finish. This completed successfully. Now if we refresh our tables, we should have another table created. See, now we have got another table, time data. Open data preview, we have got the data for this. So this is how we can load the data from desktop to HANA system using flat file upload option. So while loading that also, we can create table in the system and load, or we can load it to the existing table. So these are the two options. So now let's summarize what we have learned in this session. So we have seen how we can load data from a flat file into HANA system using flat file upload option. So what are the steps we have to perform? Steps need to be performed. Make sure we are in modeler perspective. Otherwise, we won't get quick launch screen. Okay, then select import option in quick launch screen. Then open or expand SAP HANA content and then select data from local file. Then select target system. So if you have multiple systems added in your HANA Studio, then you have to select to which system you want to load the data. Then select the source file and properties of source file. So this is going to be the next option. And then supported formats dot CSV dot XLS dot XLSX. So these are the three supported formats. Then select the target table. Okay, so we have, so the target table can be either new or existing. Okay, then manage column mappings. Okay, then review and finish. Check the data preview at table level. So these are the typical steps we have to perform when you want to load data from flat file, data from your desktop to HANA using flat file upload in quick launch screen. So the same screenshots you have got here. So these are the typical steps. You need to select what is the source and then select the target system. Then select the flat file upload, which file you want to upload, and then select the target table, manage the mappings, then check the data in your target table. So same screenshots. In the quick launch screen, select import, then open SAP HANA content, data from local file, which means your first step is done. Then you have to select target system. So this is how it looks. When you have multiple systems added, this is how it looks. You have to select one system to which you want to load the data. So select the target system. Second step is done. Then here you are going to select what is your source file. So you browse your file, select the field delimiter, and then select whether you have existing header rows exist or not, and you want to import complete data set or only few lines. So this is nothing but select file for upload. Then the next option is selecting target table. can be either new or it can be existing file, which is select target table step. Then managing mappings. So one by one or map by name options. And then if it is a new table, you can also select what is your primary key, and you can change the data types of those columns, which is your manage table definitions and data mappings. So if it is a new table, you can also change the table definitions. If it is an existing table, you can only alter the mappings here, which is our fifth step. Then comes our final step. You just, after that, finish it. Once the job is successfully finished, right click on your table and then go to data preview to see whether data is available or not. So when you see an option, when you see a log which says it's completed successfully, most of the times you are going to have data in your table. So in this lesson, we have learned how we can load data from desktop to HANA using flat file upload option in quick launch screen. Thank you for watching. Have a good day and happy learning.